Hello, and welcome to Reading Literature, Analyzing and Evaluating. Although analyzing and evaluating sources sound very similar, they each focus on different aspects. This vehicle discusses both. Let's begin with the basics. Analyzing is the process of breaking down a text into its component parts to understand how they work together to create meaning. Analyzing answers the questions: what is this? How is it constructed? And what does it mean? So, how do we accomplish this? Well, here are a few core concepts. The first is deconstruction. This involves identifying the methodology for empirical or scholarly literature, or the literary devices and themes for primary and creative literature. Next is the contextualization. This involves looking at the historical, cultural, or theoretical framework that the text was written within. And finally, analyzing the synthesis of literature involves looking at how the author weaves arguments, data, and citations together. Now, the focus of your analysis may shift depending on what type of source you are analyzing, your goal for reading, or your level of education. This includes finding the thesis statements, identifying main arguments, recognizing methodology used, and understanding the difference between primary and secondary sources. Additionally, identifying those theoretical frameworks, finding gaps in the literature, analyzing constraints or limitations of the study, and tracking how this text fits into a broad scholarly communication is also important. Furthermore, you might do a critique of the methodology, discovering self and author paradigm shifts, as well as theoretical alignment. As we are analyzing, we want to think of a few questions. What is the central problem the author is addressing? How do sections of the text build upon one another? And what data or evidence is used to support these claims? Analyzing isn't simply looking at what is stated in the article, but breaking it down to understand the paper as a whole. Now, let's look at evaluating. Just as individuals are evaluated in a profession or through grades and schools, sources need to be evaluated as well. Evaluating sources is about passing judgment on the source to see if it meets the rigorous standards of academic research. While evaluating, be critical. Remember, not all published works are truths etched in stone. Acknowledge if possible, and if possible, eliminate the bias of both the author and yourself. Ask yourself, do I find this paper compelling because it affirms my thinking, or am I discounting these findings simply because it differs from my own? Now, let's look at how do we evaluate a resource. To do so, let's think about CARBs. First is currency. Is it recent or up to date for the field of study? Does it represent a current consensus? Is it foundational or seminal to historical text that could or should be old or original work? Next, look at the authority. Who wrote this? Are they qualified? Be aware of posts, articles, or websites without authors listed. Be aware of authors with no credentials. And check, is the publisher a reputable university press or top-tier journal in the field? Afterwards, look at the accuracy of the information. Is this information being supported by an evidence? Does the data support the claim? Are the sources listed? Is the research reproducible? Are their statistical methods sound? And are the conclusions overreaching the data? After accuracy, we want to look at the relevance. Is this information relevant? Does the source answer my question, or does it merely mention one of the key words? Does it fill a gap in my studies or in my research? And finally, we must evaluate the bias. Is it trying to inform, sell, persuade, or promote an idea? Bias is present in both the author and the reader. We must determine if it's an opinion piece or empirical research. What are the funding sources or sources of conflict of interest? Does the author exhibit confirmation bias or just ignore competing thoughts? So after CARB, we can also look at SIFT. To begin, you stop. Before reading, citing, or sharing literature, pause. Check your own bias. Question your initial reactions and verify the source before investing time into a deep analysis. Investigate who wrote the piece, where is it published, what is the track record of that publications. Look up the organization or author to see if they are a reputable authority or biased source. Also check to see if they wrote it or if AI created a brand new article that was not written by this individual. Look into a journal's impact factor, peer-reviewed process, or author's academic credentials and previous contributions to the field. Next, you're going to find better coverage. Look around to determine what the broader scholarly consensus is on the topic. Determine if other credible sources are reporting the same findings or if this is an outlier. If the claim seems to be shocking or unusual, find similar articles, synthesis articles, or systematic reviews can help provide a more stable, trusted overview of the topic. And finally, trace. Trace the claims, the quotes, and the context to the original search. Information can get stripped of its context as it's cited, reported, or rephrased by secondary sources. Finding the original empirical study, dataset, or primary document to ensure that the findings or quotes haven't been cherry-picked, misrepresented, or taken out of context is very important. By evaluating your source, you as a researcher can better understand and use the source to better your own research. As always, remember, research isn't about finding any source, it's about finding the right source. Happy researching, Patriots!